Hey there, YouTube. Hopefully, I've got everything working. I'm still sorting that out. Uh, Partially because I've got a new desk set up, so everything's in a different place. Partially because, yeah, no, it's been a while. And unfortunately, you know, this time of year it's hard to get anything out of everything else done, you know? Like, I know that's whining and that sounds like an excuse, but yeah, I work in retail. And yeah, no, this is just kind of a tough time of year all around, and this year's been particularly bad. Okay, I need to knock off the whole whining thing. Okay, because currently I'm gonna have to get these monitors turned off. Just I don't know, safety and security. So I need to get this set up just in case anything comes up in chat, and so that I can make sure what I'm doing is actually showing up on the screen. Because today we are going to be putting um, the muscle plates onto the quilted shirt that I'm currently wearing, and that takes a lot of positioning. That takes a lot of moving around to figuring stuff out. So it's going to be kind of tricky to keep the camera where it can see everything. So yeah, going to be a lot of shifting from uh, being on, being in a chair, squatting on a bucket, moving in front of a mirror. So hopefully sound quality is all right. I haven't actually. Okay, sound quality is about as good as it ever is. Working on that. I need to buy myself a better microphone. I'm looking into options and possibilities. Um, okay, so I've already done the first measurement for one of the shoulder pieces. Yeah, no, that lag is not doing me any favors. Uh, yeah, yeah, no, it's been a while. So I have this first shoulder figured out and positioned as to where I want to put it. And it helps that I'm going to line up this corner with this seam on the particular shirt I'm using, um, which will allow me to line up the scales better. So since I've got that first line figured out, I know. I don't like wearing tank tops either, but when you're trying to get all these positioned, you want as few extra layers in your way as possible to make sure everything is sitting exactly how it's going to sit when you're going to wear it. So, all right, I am getting that point lined up with the seam and this bottom edge lined up with the edge of where these scales are going to be. Yeah. How's everybody else in chat doing? I know it's been a while since I've popped on. Hope you guys are enjoying this particular season of year. Sometimes that's a lot trickier than it should be. Okay. There we go. Yeah, no. This footage is not going to be as helpful as other bits of footage I've collected for when I get the video on like the step-by-step guide video on how to do this put together. Really hope I didn't flub something there. Okay, so and again, a lot of the like muscle plate positioning has to be done while you're wearing the thing, which is half of why it takes so long to do this. So, okay, you gotta get that back. Gotta get everything where it's laying flat and laying flush. Did I glued the wrong point onto that? I was very concerned I was going to do that, and that is what I did. So we are already, I don't know what, less than 5 minutes into the stream, and I flubbed it. Thankfully, with just one little bead of glue on there, that is simple enough to pull off so I can reposition. Yep. Yep, yep. So I had entirely the wrong point that I needed to have there marked. So I actually made a mistake before the stream started, which is good. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get that all ready. All right. And for this particular part, I am still just using regular hot glue. I'm not using fabric-specific hot glue. In every other time I've built. What con are you prepping for? Or are you just making it for the fun of it? Well, currently I normally go to Denver Comic Con every year, and I'm currently planning on going there again. Now that's off in June, so I'm not specifically in a rush for getting this done. Mostly, I'm doing this because I have kind of promised people I was going to do it for a while, and fallen short on that. So I should have done this video years ago because I've been cosplaying as Thor since like the year the first Avengers movie came out, like right after that. Uh, and it was Thor: The Dark World and Age of Ultron before I got a really good system figured out and started getting a lot of questions at cons about how I did this. I've posted another video just kind of talking abstractly about how I did this, but it wasn't really a guide. It was not particularly helpful. Okay, all right, that is not 100% perfect, but it'll do. So part of the plan after I get these plates I'll put on here is that I am going to trim a lot of the edges so they line up with the quilting on this shirt, so that when I attach the scales, that they will line up with the edges of the plates, because essentially I'm building a little bit of a muscle suit into this scale armor, since I'm not ripped, since I do not have the physique of a god of thunder, you know, and frankly, doing it with foam is going to work a heck of a lot better than trying to actually work out enough to get the physique of a god of thunder. Okay, so I'm unfortunately having to shift to the mirror so I can get the line for where I need to glue this line, this edge of the plate. I tried getting the mirror set up where it was like right behind the camera, and that just was not working. Okay, so this is where it is unfortunately super time consuming, as I have to get an edge of something figured out, and then I have to take it off and then glue the next plate, or the next edge of the plate down. Okay. So far, actually, that edge is keeping with where that line of scales are. Now, that seam at the shoulder will result in scales at 2 different angles. That is awesome, dude. I need to go back and I need to fix up the sword. It's unfortunately been sitting on a shelf for a while and it's started to fall apart a little bit. I want to add a string of LEDs to the center of the blade where the LEDs are closer together, because what I have in there right now is literally just the guts out of a super cheap, um, you know, $5 laser sword from Walmart. Um, and I've got a buddy who knows more about soldering than I do, which isn't saying much since I don't know beans, um, who's going to help me get a decent string of LEDs in there. So it's got a more thorough light in the middle of the blade. And I want to get some better pictures taken with it, because I really, man, I don't have any decent pictures with that. So I want to find. I know there are certain trees where when they bloom, they have red leaves. Um, and for that section on the western end of Hyperlight Drifter where they have red trees, yeah, no, that's what I want. I want red trees. And one of the other big pictures I want is from that opening cinematic where he's just standing on a he or she. I don't know as I ever specified gender for him. Um, where he's just standing on that really still pool of water. I want to get a picture of that. Unfortunately, the mechanics of doing that are a little bit tricky. Where, for the most part, there's I don't even know what you'd call them, like the big concrete sort of drainage areas for rainfall. I got one of those nearby that if there was just a little bit of water in it and a nice clear blue day, um, I could get a pretty decent picture then. Okay, so I am going to do a little bit of guesswork on this part because I couldn't quite get a line where I wanted. That's not enough information. That is not enough information. Okay, so sorry, I'm gonna have to move closer to the mirror over here. So I'm gonna have to sidle right past the camera. Oh, sorry about bumping the camera. Okay, here we go. Because now I know where that point furthest back goes, and I can just kind of extrapolate everything else from that. As some of this trimming the edges where they line up with the scales is just going to have to take place after I have the whole thing properly glued in position, and I can just kind of peel one edge up at a time and cut it from there. I don't know. Appreciate it, man. You are. Congrats on being the first person to ever comment on one of my live streams. I appreciate it. This will all go up in the guide video when I get it out. Take it easy, man. And then I go dead silent. It feels weird going dead silent. It feels judgmental. Did I say congrats on commenting or thanks on commenting? Because thanks is the appropriate thing to say. Congrats makes me sound like a douche. It would hardly be the first time I have sounded like unto a douche. Oh no, I said douche on YouTube. Am I going to get demonetized? Sorry, YouTube, I'm not making any money on this. So I ain't afraid of that getting taken away. Oh no. All right. So, assuming that I have done all of this correctly, that should fit. Nice. Fits nice, comfortable. It'll move with me when I move and provide a reasonable facsimile of musculature. I say, you know, not that I'm insecure and need to say big words while I'm over here wearing a gross tank top and readjusting like foam and whatnot on me. Okay, because the shoulder was easily the most important piece because everything else is kind of going to have to sit in position relative to that. Now, for positioning these relative to each other, the next most important piece is going to be the piece that goes on the front of the arm. As you are kind of sitting at rest is going to need to go down the very front of the arm. There's a seam in it where you can just kind of adjust it to go straight down your arm. Okay, as I say, waiting for the video to catch up. All right, that, except for being too far over, well, let me work on this where you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so with the shoulder piece sitting where it needs to, letting my arm sit in a relaxed, neutral position. Going to get that center line going directly from the bottom of that, giving enough room for at least one row of scales from the bottom of that. Okay, this is good. This is where I need it to be. All right, so now, while making sure it doesn't move from where I need it to be, I need to mark all of the important lines. For anybody who has friends in the local area who can help them cosplay, this would be a lot easier with two people. Just as a note. Okay, so I am going to mark that uppermost point, and I'm going to get one tiny dab of glue on that uppermost point. And I'm going to get that one piece, or that one point on this plate, exactly where it needs to be. I'm going to have that glued in position, because now I will be able to leave that, I'll be able to hold it in position easier so that I can mark all the other relative points. And it is important to make sure, as you are doing this, to keep your arm as much in that relaxed position as possible. I am not a lefty, unfortunately. I want to make sure the right arm's done correctly, as that is going to be the arm I'm going to hold my hammer in. That's why I'm doing that one first. And that is unfortunately the more difficult one to do. Okay, so I have the line I drew on the muscle plate, and I have the line I drew on the fabric. Make sure they're lined up, and do just another dot of glue on that. Okay, so we have the two most important points, the very top and the very bottom, and we can proceed to extrapolate from there. All right, we are at a point where I am just actually going to, instead of marking, just going to take another dollop of glue. I say dollop, but really a drop of glue. And relax, and get the plate glued exactly where it needs to be. Yeah, I know with this microphone I'm nowhere near close enough to actually get decent audio, and I apologize for that. But I am, as much as anything, kind of thinking out loud, so that when I reference back to this, I can I can provide a better guide video on how to do this, because half of this is me figuring it out as I go along, or figuring out a slightly better way to do it than the last time I did it. All right, so we have shoulder plate and the front arm plate. All right. So I think here we're going to take a sec before we start gluing other stuff down, and we're going to make sure that we are trying to follow the edge of the scales as much as possible. Actually, yeah, no. Okay. Yeah, no, I am not getting the curve I need. Man, this would be so much easier with two people. Best piece of advice while doing this: have two people. Don't be like me, kids. Okay, so we are going to go back to, while wearing it, getting some glue in here. Use low temp hot glue gun for this. You are much less likely to burn yourself. Yeah, I would definitely say it is probably best to have the plates completely glued down before you start trimming it to get it to match with the scales. Okay. Getting that under edge is going to suck. Is at least in a less visible part of the costume. Yeah, this is not. I am not doing this where you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. So, now we've got that frontmost plate taken care of. Although I suspect we're going to end up trimming it a little bit to fit some of the other plates on there. So, give video a sec to catch up so I can get a pretty decent view of what this is looking like. All right. Now yeah. So there are essentially three plates that make up the arm, which, trying to replicate actual, human musculature. Kind of feeling for that muscle on my own arm. And I'm having such trouble because I have not so much muscles. Am I even feeling the right thing? Yeah. And I wish I had better advice for this part, but some of this just comes down to try to feel for the right location. Okay, now we do not want to glue these two plates together. In fact, what we are going to end up doing is we are going to cut something where these two plates interlock. And it is entirely a different kind of energy doing this on stream as opposed to just figuring this out essentially by myself. I think I would probably describe it as being a smidge nerve-wracking. Okay, now that I've gone back to the mirror to check positioning, I feel pretty good about where that's set up at. Normally, this shoulder plate has kind of a guide for where these three plates go, but frankly, just about everybody's going to have to adjust them if they're working on this costume. So, this is going to be, sorry about bumping the mic, the last plate for the upper arm, at least. Actually, I don't know, you guys. I'm thinking. I'm thinking. I'm thinking, you guys. Maybe we don't even use that metal plate entirely. So let us examine the possibilities of what happens if we don't. Now, thankfully, we don't have to worry too much about leaving residue on the suit because we are, after all, yeah, no, I'm thinking we just don't use that plate. Okay, so we have ourselves a point marked for where we're going to start that top plate. And we're going to keep it right on that diagonal. This one, we are just kind of gonna, don't want to glue exactly on the edge because again, we're gonna trim that so it lines up with the scales. But this one, we're kind of gonna just let hang loose. And he should be fine on that. Because mostly he just needs to sit relative to the other plates. Okay. How's that doing? Yeah, it looks like that's working pretty well. It's kind of hard to tell in front of the camera. Okay, now that we have those two plates set up, I think we can do a much better job about positioning that center plate. So I think we're going to end up with it practically exactly where we had it, but it's nice to have all the pieces we need. Although the tricky thing is going to be, all right, tricky thing is going to be showing this on camera. Okay. So what I'm going to need to do is, this is kind of one of the tricky parts where we're trying to get these plates to interact with each other in a specific way, where they are essentially going to interact and interlock with each other. So we are going to have to trim these plates. All right, where did I put that white colored pencil? No idea. Oh boy. Yeah, you know what? I think we are just going to skip that little plate. Maybe not, because it didn't really add anything, didn't add too much to the previous ones. I don't know. My raw artistic process, so on display for the entire world to see. This is not being particularly informative. That was the trickiest part of this part of the build, is figuring out how to show it. Um, and that might be the thing, is it might be that positioning the plates is not the part I need to be showing you guys, because that you just kind of got to muscle through on your own. It's this, you know, trimming, like those three plates that interlock are the trickiest, like muscle plate positioning. Oh, there's the white colored pencil. And where's the lid to this? As I put myself through the window behind me. Uh, yeah. All right. I'm gonna worry about that plate later. I'm gonna make a decision on that later. So next, I need to figure out the elbow plate. That one's a little bit simpler. I mostly just have to get it exactly where the elbow bends. And with that, considering the elbow is going to pull the costume tight, we want to find the position for that while the elbow is bent. Okay, so I'm going to take that, take one of those elbow pieces, point side up, and we're just going to get him enough glue. And again, I've got a little bit of an advantage because I've done this before. I've got a pretty good feel for where he needs to go. But yeah, pretty much right on the tip of the elbow. All right. So that is all but the forearm plate, which is a little bit more jury rigged because this is not, as part of the original muscle suit goes, really a plate meant for the forearm. It's something a little bit more jury rigged on my part. I'm thinking what I might end up doing is I might end up printing another one of these, um, except for the opposite side. And we're using that for the forearm because it did fit the bill really well. I was not as well prepared for this particular stream as I thought. There are some things I'm going to have to reconsider uh, and rebuild and cut new copies of. Yeah, this is probably why I don't try to do this for a living. I might not really be cut out for the whole streaming end of this. Uh, but this has gotten us some raw footage of getting the plates done, which will come in handy, which will be necessary for when I get the guide video for this up. Um, I mean, thanks everybody for stopping by. Thanks everybody who clicks on this after the fact to see what we got going on. Um, but yeah, I will probably get the rest of the plates done in just a mirror, and then do the rest of this on the same table camera layout where it's easier for everybody to see what's going on. So thanks for watching. Thanks for taking the time. But I think we are going to table this for today. At the very least, table recording it. I will try to get the other arm glued together so that all this is ready to go soon. My place of work has shuffled my days off, so my uploading on Monday thing that I had going on is currently not viable. Hopefully, we'll get back there soon. So, see you guys then.